Today we're going to be replacing a carburetor on this Husqvarna snowblower. The previous owner, they took it apart because I guess they left old gas in it, it got gummed up, and in the process they lost some of the parts of the carburetor. So there's no fixing this existing carburetor, otherwise I'd take it apart and we'd clean it out and do all that. But that's not happening. I actually have a box here. This is from HIPA. HIPA sent me a new carburetor for this. We're going to get this installed and I'll show you guys the process along the way.
The first thing you need to do is take off your covers here that allow you to access the carburetor. This top cover, you need to take out the two fasteners. You need to pry and pull the choke knob off. And if you have a key, take your key out. That's going to allow you to take off the top cover. Now this snowblower is missing the bottom cover. It's just really just to encase this area here. It doesn't affect the engine from a functional standpoint. Let me show you what it looks like on this other snowblower I've got. So this is a John Deere with the same engine. So you'll notice it's got the same cover here. This lower cover, you're going to need to take off these two nuts there, and that's what's going to allow you to take the lower cover off. Here's how I pull that choke knob off. Just grip it and pull. It'll pop off of there. There. So we'll pull these wires off. So that's that for that. And then this hose over here for the primer bulb, we're just going to pull it off. There we go. Essentially what we need to do is remove the fuel hose. We'll do that by releasing this clamp here and just pulling the hose off. And then there are a few linkages here on the back side. And we're just going to pull those out after we have the carburetor released. And we kind of pull it away from the engine, we'll be able to twist it and get those linkages off of there. I do also have this plastic side cover here that's just in my way, so I'm going to take it off. So now we're going to pull the hose upward. In this case, it is wanting to stick on there. You know, in a really extreme situation, you could just cut the hose, but I don't really want to do that. I do want to use this hose again. There we go. We've got the hose pulled off. The vice grips are doing their job and they're not letting any fuel pass by, so that's good. It's working as intended. So to release the carburetor, we need to take these studs out of here. This is where I'm going to use an E5 socket. And this socket set here is something I got off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the video description below. That loosened up really easily. Same with the other one. Okay, so we got these two studs out. Now that these are pulled out of there, we should be able to slide the carburetor off of the intake manifold. So we're just going to use a screwdriver here, and we're going to use it to pry the carburetor away from the engine. There is a gasket here, and because it has never been taken off, it's a little bit stubborn coming off of there. So prying this off gently, it should pop right off. There we go. So now that that's loose, the only thing holding us back are the linkages. And these linkages are right here at the top. Now that the carburetor is loose, I can kind of twist and contort the carburetor so that it's in a better position for me to take those linkages off of there. So there are two linkages. One is a spring, and it's very thin. I'm going to gently take that off of there. So that's free. And then I'm also going to try and contort the carburetor so I can get the larger linkage off of there. That one is wanting to fight me a little more, but it'll come out. I'm going to use needle nose pliers to try and persuade it. There we go. There's the old carburetor. All right, so once the old carburetor's off, you might have this block, which is essentially a spacer stuck on the end there. There's a gasket, the spacer, another gasket. As far as I can see, there's nothing holding that on there, so I'm just gonna see if we can knock it off.
There you go. Now, when HIPA sent this out to me, they did let me know this particular part number for what they sent me includes extra things that I don't really need for this particular snowblower, but in some applications of this engine, you would need these things. So in this box, we have a pre-air filter. We have an air filter. Neither of those are needed for this blower. However, those just come with it. Some of the applications for this engine, you might need those things. We have the various linkages needed for like the choke and the throttle and the governor. So we've got all new components there. Right here, we have the carburetor itself. So this is a replacement for what we took off of there. It also comes with a spark plug and a fuel filter. So it's pretty complete little kit here. It's a good thing. Okay, so looking at this new carburetor, this black plastic piece here, which is meant for the choke knob to connect to, it's not right for this particular application. So if you look at the old carburetor here with the white one, you can see how that plastic piece is different than the new one here with the black one. So what we're going to do is take the white plastic one off of this carburetor and we're going to put it on the new one. So this is really easy to do. What you want to do is basically put the choke in the open position. Once it's open, you're just going to pull that plate out of there. On the old carburetor, it's a little snug. We're going to use some pliers to help it out. So we take that out like that. And then once that plate is out of there, you can pull the plastic piece out. So here we are with the new carburetor. We're going to open up the choke. I'm going to pull out the plate. And with that plate out, now we can pull out the black plastic piece that we don't want. We're going to put the white one from the old carburetor into the new carburetor. And then once that's in there, we're going to take the choke plate and put it back where it belongs in there. So now we have the choke reinstalled along with the the old plastic choke rod from the old carburetor. Okay, so on the new carburetor, it's got this plastic piece which locks the throttle linkage into place. But on the new carburetor, the hole in here is too small of a diameter for the throttle linkage on the snowblower. So I'm gonna take this drill, and I have just a very small drill bit on here that's similar in size to the linkage on the engine side. And I'm just gonna use that to widen the hole in this little plastic bushing. It's either gonna work or it's gonna ruin the bushing. I think it worked. Okay, now we're going to reinstall the new carburetor. And as you remember, we're going to have to reconnect these two linkages. One is the throttle control and the other is a spring for the governor. In addition to that, we have the fuel hose. The fuel hose will be last. So what I always do is I contort the carburetor so that I can get the linkages on where they belong. Alright, so we're going to reinsert this spacer in there. Your carburetor will come with new gaskets. It would be best practice if you install those new gaskets. On mine, I'm actually not going to do it because these look fine as they are. And so I'm just going to put it back on there. You guys choose what to do with yours, but obviously the best thing to do is use those new gaskets. But because mine look fine, we're just going to run them as is, as I mentioned. So once you have that spacer in there, then we need to put these studs back in that we took out. And those studs are actually what's going to hold the carburetor into place. Alright, we got those studs back on there. Remember, that is an E5 socket. And if you need a set of these, I'll put a link to the product that I have in the video description below. Okay, now that we have the carburetor attached, we're just going to reconnect the fuel line here. If you had any old fuel in your tank, it'd be best practice for you to remove that old fuel, just drain it out till it's empty, put in fresh gas. So on the fuel hose, we're just gonna push it onto the inlet on the carburetor. So now that's on there. I'm gonna take off my vice grips. That's what was plugging the hose. And I'm gonna use my pliers here to move the hose clamp down. So now the clamp is holding the hose. I need to make a small adjustment to my linkage here. So now that everything's reconnected, you just want to make sure, one more time, your choke linkage, or your connector for the choke is there. All your linkages for the throttle and the governor are there. The new carburetor on here, it does not have a port for a primer bulb to be connected to it. So, I mean, obviously it's designed that way because that's what they intended to do. So, no priming it. We're just going to assume at this point fuel has gone down the fuel tank into the hose, into the carburetor bowl. And let's give this thing a shot. I think we're ready to try it. Here we go. I can tell it's kind of hard to turn over because it's so cold out, and I'm sure the oil's really cold. Okay, we're gonna try the electric start. Fingers crossed. After swapping the carburetor out on this thing last night and it was running good, it's the next morning. We're just gonna start it up, see if all the controls work, stuff like that. We'll give this thing a quick try. Thanks to HIPA for supplying the carburetor used in this repair. Follow the link in my video description to go check out their website, and you can get one of these too. I'd highly recommend it.
You're gonna live with me now. Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna take care of you. Because I love you.